Hey smart people, Toby Salami here. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a product roadmap page on WordPress. You're going to be able at the end of this video to build something just like this, where you have planned, next, and in progress. Inside of these categories, you have roadmap items, and I'm going to show you how you can build this voting system in which any of the items that has the highest number of votes is automatically moved to the top of the pile. For example, let's upvote change file names on file download dynamically. It's a video I have coming up in the future. And if you're interested in this sort of stuff, this entire video I'm working on now or any on this planned or next or in progress list, please subscribe to the YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe button below. Now, let us upvote that as an example. We're just going to click on upvote here. Once we click on that, we see that this has now been upvoted and the count is 4. Once we refresh this, we see now that inside of this next list here, you have the item with the highest number of upvotes right at the top. Now, I'm going to show you how you can build this, including the voting system, in this one video. You want to grab a cup of coffee and let's get this done, shall we? Let's start with the plugins. You just need JetEngine to be installed along with the modules I'm about to show you. If you come inside the modules here, you see that inside of the JetEngine dashboard, I have the following 2 modules toggled on. I have data stores, which you can get to by toggling it on here and clicking on save. You can also come down here to external modules and toggle on trim string callback. Now, I'm going to show you how I made use of these 2 modules as we progress in the video, so just hold your horses. Now, you also need any page builder of your choice as long as it supports JetEngine. I make use of Elementor to demonstrate in this video, but you can of course make use of Bricks Builder to follow the exact same steps I show you here. Let's go on to the first step. And the first step here is simply not to close the group, but to come inside of JetEngine and click on post types. You want to create the post type that will hold the roadmap for you. Each of the items entered into this post type will represent an item on the roadmap list. So let's add that. Let's click on add new and give the roadmap post type a name. So we're just going to call it roadmap. That's it. Now we're just going to come to advanced settings and come down here and ensure that it supports both the title and the editor view. And this is important because we can use this to enter both the title of the roadmap item and the details of the roadmap item inside of the editor right there. Every other thing can remain the same. You can also tweak the settings here to your heart's content. That's your choice. Now, we're going to move to the next step, which is the categorization of these roadmap items. You know, in a regular roadmap page, you would have something like in progress, planned, and next, for example. Now, how do you categorize these things? You make use of taxonomies, right? So we're just going to add a new taxonomy here. We'll click on taxonomies. Just take note that the roadmap item we previously added is now on the list of CPTs right here. So let's add the taxonomy item right now. Once we click on add new taxonomy, we're just going to call that roadmap category. That's descriptive enough. We're going to come down inside of settings here and scroll down here to where we have hierarchical and toggle that on. Our reason for doing that is just one. We need it to be a little more visually appealing when we're trying to add roadmap items. That's all. Every other thing is going to work the same way whether or not you have hierarchical toggled on. Okay, so let's go on. Now that we have that done, we want to come down here inside of new Metafield and just call this Metafield order of items. The reason why we want to create this is because we want to position these things on the page in a particular order. So we're just going to set that order inside of here. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how this all connects together. Next, after creating that particular meta field, of course, you want to specify if it's a number or if it's anything else of your choice. In this case, it's a number, so it's good. We can click on add taxonomy. We've not specified the post type as it shows us here, so we're just going to specify that post type right now. Let's scroll up and select the post type. The post type is, of course, roadmap. So we're just going to select that and click on add taxonomy. Now we have everything pretty much done, right? We'll just want to come inside of that particular roadmap category that we have there. And once we select that, we want to add each of the categorization items. For example, we want to add planned. So we're just going to add that. We'll say it's the first in place and click on add category. Then we're going to add next and we'll say that one will be the second in place. So we're just going to type in 2 here and click on add category. We're going to add the last one, which is in progress, and that one will be the very last on the right-hand side of the page where we'll have the 3 roadmap category items there. Once we have the 3 added in here, we're good to go. We can go ahead and create the query that is going to return all of these roadmap category items for us. So let's create that. We'll come inside of JetEngine and click on Query Builder. Now, what kind of query are we going to create? It's going to be a simple query of terms. So let's just call it any name we choose to call it. In this case, I'm going to say query of category items. That's good. Under query type, we're going to select terms because, of course, that's a taxonomy term. We're now going to select the taxonomy we're concerned with. And in this case, it's roadmap. So we're going to select roadmap category here. Now, after selecting that, we want to come down here to order. And here we want to select from lowest to highest. So it's going to go like 1, 2, 3. Remember that when we added the terms to this roadmap, we specified 1, 2, 3, right? So we're going to specify that particular order here by saying it should be from lowest to highest. And that makes complete sense. But what should be? As you can see on the order by, we can select that particular item to order it by. And here we're going to select order by numeric meta value. Now what is left is for us to specify the meta key from which to order this item here. Do you recall what it was? I don't, so let's check. If we come back inside of JetEngine Taxonomies here and select that particular taxonomy we created, this one, we're going to see inside of the Metafields here what that name is. And here you have the name or ID here. So we're just going to copy that. We're going to come back inside of the query here, and we're going to specify that that should be the meta key here. Now, this is all looking good for us, but let's confirm. If we toggle on preview results, we see now that we have the 3 items in the order we specified. We can see it's all looking good here. The first is planned, the next is next, and the last is in progress. All good, all good. It's all good. Now we want to click on add query. We're done with that. Now let's go to the next step. The next step is to create another query, and this query this time will be a query of all of the items we have inside of our roadmap. But before we do that, let's just quickly add some items to our roadmap, shall we? We're just going to click on roadmap here, close this one out, and add a new post. Now let's add our first roadmap item. I'm just going to paste it inside of here. The first one we're going to put in here is build a roadmap page in JetEngine. That is a roadmap item that is going to be on the roadmap page inside of this video, which is the exact same video I'm currently working on right now. So it makes complete sense to put this inside of in progress, right? So let's come to roadmap category on the right now and select in progress and click on publish. And I'm not going to bore you with the rest. I'm just going to do the same thing, repeat the same steps for all the other roadmap items here, and you're going to have a page magically filled with all of the items. Now, finger snapped, done. Now, the next thing we want to do is to create a query that actually fetches all of these roadmap items. So we're just going to come back into the query here, and we're going to build a new query. We're going to come to Query Builder, click on Add New, and this query will be the query of roadmap items. So query of roadmap items. This query will run inside of the other query. So take note of what we do here to make this itself dynamic. Now under query type, we're going to leave this as post query because of course this is a simple post, right? Now we're going to scroll down here to post type and select roadmap because that's of course is the post type, right? Now inside of post status, we want to select published because it's only the posts that are published or the roadmaps that are published that we want to show in the front end. And that makes technical sense, right? Next, you want to come inside here to tax query. And this is important because when we click on add new and come to taxonomy here, you can very easily select the roadmap category taxonomy there. And select under the field, term ID. And under terms, you can then select, of course, using the dynamic tag option here, queried term. Because this is going to run inside of the other query. So we're going to come here to the compare operator and select in. We're almost good to go. Once we have that selected, we can click on add query. We're almost done with this. We're making good progress here. So we can go ahead now to create a listing of all of these items. The first listing we're going to create is a listing of the roadmap items. So we're just going to create that by coming inside of listing and components. Let's close this one out and we want to add a new listing item. Now inside of listing source, you want to select query builder and you want to select that query we just created, the query of roadmap items. Now, this listing item is going to be called whatever you choose to call it. In my case, I'm going to call it roadmap items. We're getting creative, aren't we? We're going to click on create listing item. Now, inside of this listing, we're going to fetch a few simple things here. So let's just add a simple flexbox item here. If you're inside of Bricks Builder, you want to add a container or a block or whatever you want to add inside of here, it's your choice. If you're inside Gutenberg, do the same thing. Now, after adding the container here, the next thing you want to do is to add a heading. Now, this heading would, of course, be a heading of the particular roadmap item, right? So in this case, we're just going to keep it as a H3 for simplicity's sake. We're going to select the text color here and give it a dark color. Now, after giving it a black color, we're just going to keep it as small as possible. So let's just give it a variable size of, let's say, heading 5 variable size. That should be okay. Now, on the title, we just want to fetch here the post title. Once you fetch the post title, you're almost done. The next thing you want to add is the content inside of the roadmap. Recall that when I was creating the roadmap items, of course I didn't show you, but let me show it to you right now. If you edit any of these roadmap items, you should have an option to add inside of here the content for that particular roadmap, right? But I didn't add anything here because I was too lazy to add anything here. But assume that they're there, right? Now, the next thing you want to do is to come back inside of the listing and select, of course, dynamic field. And here you want to fetch the content. So inside of object field here, just select content. Right now, I'm just going to use lorem ipsum as the fallback because I have nothing currently inside any of my roadmap items. So let me just select and copy a simple lorem ipsum text here and paste that inside of there. Now that shows us right there. Now that we have our fallback selected, the next thing we want to do is to use the module that we previously activated inside of JetEngine. Remember the trim string callback module? You want to select the dynamic field widget like this, and you want to come down here to filter field output and toggle that on. Now on the callback, you want to select and scroll down to trim string by characters or words. And here you want to specify, let's say, words, and the string length, let's say, 20 words, and that should be fine. Once you have that all done, the next thing you want to do now is to add the data store widget here. But before we add the data store widget, which of course we want to use for the upvoting system, we want to make sure that we have first created our data store. So let's come back inside of the dashboard here and come down to JetEngine and create a new data store. We're going to come down here to data stores, which of course only shows up when you toggle on data stores. When you're inside data stores, you want to click on new store. Now give it a name, whatever name you want to call it. In this case, I'm going to call it roadmap. And that's going to give us a slug of roadmap and it should be fine. Now what store type are you going to select here? I would select user IP as the store type here. And the reason being that you want everybody, whether they're logged in or logged out, to be able to vote or upvote any item on the roadmap, right? You also don't want to select cookies in this case because a person can very easily clear cookies on their browser and they have the ability to upvote any of the roadmap items once again. Or maybe use session, which is also clearable. Once a person is done with a particular browsing session, then they're able to upvote it again. It doesn't make much sense to do it this way. Using user metadata will mean that the person will have to be logged in, but this is a public roadmap. You want everybody who is able to see the site to be able to upvote any item on the roadmap, right? And also local storage has the same problems just as cookies and session. So the only viable option here is user IP. Sometimes it changes, but I mean, it's not so often that a person can abuse the voting system. So use user IP and you should be good. Next, you want to keep the max size as 0 because you don't want to specify any limits to the amount of items that can be upvoted, right? The next thing you want to do is toggle on count items. And the reason why you want to do this is because you want to be able to show the count in the front end. For each post or each roadmap item, you want to be able to show the count. Now, after that, you want to leave is user store toggled off because this is not a user store. This is for posts. And you want to leave store item on view toggled off because you don't want it to add this item or upvote this item once a person simply visits a page. You want them to physically click on the upvote button to get it to work. Now, we're pretty much done with setting up our data store here. Want to click on save. And we're done. Let's come back inside of that listing item and just refresh so that we now have the ability to use the modules associated with data stores. Now, we want to add a data store widget here. And to add that, we're just going to click on Add Element and type in Data Store button. Once we select that button here, we want to click on the store and select Roadmap as the store. And that's good. Inside of label here, you want to type upvote or whatever else you want to show to a person who has not yet upvoted this particular roadmap item. Now, let's select an icon. I have one I already created here, so let's just make use of that one. Select Insert Media. That should be good. Now, I want to select what this is going to look like when a person has already upvoted this. And that we can add here by coming to Action after an item is added to store, and want to select Switch Button Status here. And here we want to type in upvoted, so it's going to show upvoted, and this icon is going to slightly change to the one that's a Metafields icon, as we can see here. Now just click on Insert Media, and you should be good. Let's style this to look a little nice. This should be good. We don't want anything too fancy. We're fine with this. We want to click on Publish. Now, the next thing we want to create is a listing of the categories of the roadmap items. And we want to select here, listing and components. Now, let's just add a new listing. The listing source will, of course, be Query Builder. The query will be the query of category items. So this is going to be listing of roadmap categories. There. And click on Create Listing Item. Now, we have that here. We only need to add two things inside of here. The first thing we want to add, of course, is this is not one of the two things. Don't quote me. Don't quote me, okay? Let's just select a simple container. And inside of here, we want to add a heading widget. That's the first of the two things. Let's give it a simple style that makes it look a little more visually appealing here. And we want to fetch here the term name. The reason is that this is built on the query of terms, the category terms of the roadmap items. So we're going to fetch the term name here. And to do that, we're going to select the term field here. And the taxonomy would, of course, be the taxonomy of the roadmap category. And the field would be term name. That's good. Now it shows us one of them and it's fine. It's good. It's all right. Let's continue. Let's add a listing item, listing widget here. And the listing widget, of course, will be a listing of the roadmap items that are within this particular category. You see how it's all making sense now, can you? Let's come to listing and select the roadmap listing here. Roadmap items, done. Let's keep it in a straight line. One column is fine. This is good. This is all looking good. We're almost done. You can see very quickly that because it's inside of the context of this listing of category, it shows only those roadmap items that are inside the planned category. This is all making sense. This is good. But we also need to show the number of times this thing is upvoted. So let's make a little change to the listing item we previously created. Let's click on Publish. Let's come back here. Now we want to fetch the counts of this roadmap item upvotes. So let's select that. And let's come inside where we should have the text of upvote. Let's just cut that one out. Okay. And inside of the label here, let's fetch instead the count. So we're just going to come here, scroll down until we find data stores post counts. There it is. Click on it. Now that one is going to fetch for the store roadmap. It's good. It's showing 0. That's looking good. Nobody has voted this, fortunately. Now, the next thing you want to do is just skip specific post ID because by default, this is going to fetch the current ID of the post. And this is okay. The current ID is fine. So we're going to leave that empty, come to advanced, and we're going to paste back that upvote thingy right there. Now, after typing upvote, we're going to open a bracket. We're going to come after it and close that bracket. Oh, this is good. This is very, very good. Let's repeat the same thing for the upvoted status. The status after upvoting here. We're going to click on dynamic tags. Of course, that's after cutting that out. And we're going to come down here to where we have the data store post count. Here, we're going to select the store again, the roadmap store. We're going to select advanced, paste that back inside of there. We're going to open the brackets and close it using after. Now we're done. We're pretty much done with getting this to look the way we want it to. Let's click on Publish now. Let's come back inside of here. We're going to select that listing item. Let's just toggle on and off this user's archive template for no reason other than this quickly refreshes for us, and we can see it happening right here. Looking good, looking very good. Let's just add a little padding around this and give it a background color so it contrasts well with our black background. We're going to select the background color of white here. That should be fine. And we're going to give it a padding of, let's say, 20 pixels. That should be okay. Let's click on publish, and we're ready to go in the editor of the front end. Now, inside of the editor, we're going to select the same listing item we just created. We're going to drag the listing grid widget inside of here. We're going to select here the listing of the roadmap categories, not the items, but the categories. And the reason is that that will now very, very fine and easily fetch all of our items here for us. Two things of note here. One is that it is following the order we specified in the order we set in the taxonomy term. This is 1 for planned, 2 for next, and 3 for in progress. Good. The second thing is that inside of each of these category items, you have all of the posts linked to that particular category. This is good. This is looking good for us. Now, let's just hit publish and look at how it looks in the front end. We're going to refresh this and see how it all looks for us. It's looking great. Now, let's try to upvote a few items. Under planned, let's upvote this second one here. Under next, let's upvote this one right here. And maybe this one too. And let's come to in progress and upvote this one right here. Now, let's just refresh this page and see if anything changes here. Nothing. The ones we've upvoted, which have clearly a higher number of upvotes than the ones above them, still stay at the bottom. And the reason is that we've not yet specified any order inside of this just yet. So let's do that. Now, to ensure that the roadmap items with the higher number of upvotes show at the top, we're going to come back inside of our query and do just that. Let's select the query and make some tweaks to it. Let's come back inside of the query by coming inside of Query Builder here. And we're going to select the query of the roadmap items at the top here. Now that we're inside of this, what exactly do we use to order this by? Now let's come inside order by and see if there's something to use to sort our item here. Is there something related to the data store here? I don't see anything relating to data stores. And the reason is not very far-fetched. Now, right now, I'm going to show you a method that I use to solve problems such as this. Let's pretend like we want to add a new query. Let's see if we can figure something out here. If we come to query lists and just add new here, we don't want to add the query actually. We just want to use this to spy on the database. And the reason is we want to see how JetEngine actually stores the data store items for us so that we can very easily query that count for ourselves. So we're going to come inside of query type here and select SQL query. Don't get scared. It's very simple, straight to the point. We're going to select here on the from table, we're just going to select posts. And if we select post here, we're almost done because very easily, once we toggle preview results, we see just a few posts here. Oops, not just a few, that's a whole lot more. Let's try to strip this down to just the post type that we need. But before we do that, let's also add something from the post meta table by using use join. And under here, on the join type, we want to select inner join. And on the join table, we want to come down here and select post meta. And to link it together, we want to link the post meta table post ID with the post ID from the post meta table. That's simply how it's done when you want to query posts and also query Metafields of those particular posts. You can see the result goes exponentially higher, 4,381. That's a lot bigger than the number of items we have on our roadmap. So on the column, you want to select here that the post type, which you have selected here, is compared and equal to, of course, you remember when we entered the post type, it had a particular slug. That slug is what you need here. We called it as simple as roadmap. That's what we called it, right? And you can see 23, but that's not the number of items we really have inside of our roadmap. And the reason is also because, very simply, you have meta keys that we do not need right here, such as edit lock, which we don't need. we can just copy that because we're going to exclude that particular meta key. We also have edit last. Now, inside of our where query clause, we can exclude those. We can say that the meta key should not be equal to or not in the list of. We're going to add that and comma separate those two items there. So we no longer have those items. Now, we only have 4 items returned to us. If you recall, when we're building this, we have a lot more than 4 items inside of our roadmap here. So why do we have 4 items here? Let's scroll down and take a look at the data returned to us. If you scroll down, you take note that there's a meta key for each of these post items. For the post item with the ID 1103, for example, which has a post title, Build a Roadmap Page in JetEngine. It's right there in the front. If you come back inside of the query builder and take note of what we have here inside of the meta key has JetEngine store count, then roadmap. This is good because now you see that the meta value for this meta key is 1. And that shows you that this is the upvoted count for that particular roadmap item. This is all good for us because now we can very, very easily copy that meta key right there. Let's just copy it, and we're going to do away with that query because we didn't even need it in the first place. We only use that to inspect the database and see how things are structured up for us. Let's come back now inside of the meta query for this query that we're previously creating and click on meta query clauses and just paste that inside of there. Let's toggle on preview results and see what we're returned with. 4. Good. The same 4. It returned the exact same 4 that we found inside of our SQL query. It means we're building this correctly, and it appears that only the items that were upvoted are on this list of 4. As we can see in the front end, that is 1 upvoted here, 2 upvoted here, 3, and then 4, which is this last one right here. Now I want to compare and say that if this is greater than or equal to 0, then it should fetch the value for us. We want to specify that the type is a numeric type because what else is it? Next, we want to enter a class name. So let's just enter the class name here. I'm just going to type in roadmap count. Whatever we type in there really doesn't matter, but you need to keep it in mind. Next, you want to add a new meta query clause because the current query here only takes into account items that have had any sort of upvote in the past. And if we save that right now and update the query and come to the front end and refresh this, we see it only shows us the 4 items that have previously been upvoted. And we don't want that. We want it to show us all of the items, whether or not they have been upvoted in the past. So let's come back inside of Query Builder here, and we want to add a new meta query clause. Let's just simply duplicate this one because we're going to need everything inside of there, except of course we're going to remove the value here, and inside of the compare, we're going to say not exists. Let's also take out the class name because the class name has to be unique per class. And once we have that removed, we want to come down here inside of relation. Now, what do we want to select? We want to select OR. The idea here is to fetch all of the items. As you can see, it's 9 total items now. And this seems very realistic because that is actually the number of roadmap items we have added, right? We have, first of all, to recap, been able to fetch that particular meta key, which is going to store all of our accounts for each post. And we've said that it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Or, as we specified here in the relation, it shouldn't exist. If it doesn't exist, or it's greater than or equal to 0, fetch all of that for us. Let's click on Update Query now and come back to the front end and refresh this. Now we see all of our items once again, but we still don't see the item that has the highest number of upvotes up here, do we? This is 0, this is 1, this is 0, 0, and we have 1 down here. So let's order it. Let's come back inside our query and come to General. Now I want to select under Order, add new sorting parameter. And the order by here would be Order by Meta Class. And we're going to select that roadmap count there and come to Order and say from highest to lowest. So what you're saying is that the one with the higher voting count for the roadmap should show at the top. The one with the least voting count should show at the bottom. If we come back to the front now and refresh the page here, you see that the ones that are voted are at the top. You know what? Let me change my IP address for a moment and see if this page shows a bit differently. Snap of a finger, changed. Now let's refresh this and see what happens now. If we refresh the page, you see that now I have the ability to upvote any of these items once again. This is looking good. Now let's see if we upvote an item and refresh the page, that the item moves to the top. Let's upvote the second item here and let's refresh this page. Now we see that that item is at the top here. This is good. This is absolutely amazing. For the first time in my YouTube video, all of the items you see that I used to demonstrate this are actually factual. So take a look at these items, the ones that are planned, the one next, and the one in progress. Let me know if there is any of these items that you really want to see right now. Leave comments down below. I'll be waiting to read. My name is Toby Salami as always, and until next time, people, stay dynamic.